right. All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you are all having a great day so far. It's actually not raining here for once, so that makes me really happy. I'm going to silence my phone because you know damn well everybody's going to call me the minute I'm on here. That's just how it is. All right. And if you are here, if you're around, make sure you say hello. We love to see who's hanging out. If you are going and watching the replay, definitely let us know. Do hashtag replay. And if you have any questions, definitely go ahead and let us know. Oh, almost dropped my phone. So just going to double check, make sure. Okay, good. We're good. Yay, we are live and all the things. Everything's working today. I'm so excited. So today we are talking with Rose. And Rose wrote this book that is quite spicy. I love it. I had so much fun reading it. And so we're going to chat a little bit about that today, but we're not giving away every little detail because you need to read it for yourself because it's that good. So Rose, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Rose Guildenstern, although that's actually a pen name. And the reason I use a pen name, there's multiple reasons. One is that my given name is actually that of a murderess, a famous murderess, and I'd rather not have that associated with my book.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yes, that's right. Yes. As soon as I say it, people are like, oh, of course you didn't use that name. But anyway, it's also, though, it has to do with my book is heavily steeped and written, and everything I write about fiction-wise is steeped in Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. And Rose Guildenstern is a direct takeoff of two different Shakespearean references. One is the famous "By a rose by any other name would smell as sweet" from Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. And that's because that's my first name. And that's because it doesn't really matter what you call a person. I'm saying they are what they are, they do what they do, and it doesn't matter what we call them, whether it's a pen name or not. So that's one. And then Guildenstern, thank you. Guildenstern is actually from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. The play Hamlet, actually the most minor characters in the play of Hamlet are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead is a play wherein the most minor characters in this play become the most major characters, because the ultimate point is that one person, like Hamlet may have been the protagonist of Hamlet, but Rosencrantz and Guildenstern were the protagonists in their own lives, meaning that I don't matter as the author. What matters is the reader, their experience of the writing, and that any character can be the most important character to them. So that's why I do Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Rose Guildenstern. And then Rose and Juno is actually my moniker, because I also publish Cartomancy and Tarot under Juno Lucina, which is a whole other area that we can talk about, but really has nothing to do with Rose Guildenstern.
Well, that's another live. We'll do that next.
That's another one. Yeah.
We'll do that. So you just do a little bit of everything. That's it. That's it. No big deal. No, but I love that. And I love that, you chose the name. And I know sometimes people do choose pen names and stuff, but it usually is about them. But you kind of made it more about the reader and not about you. So I love that. Yeah.
I actually would never talk personally, vocally about my book, except that my publisher says talk to people. So I'm talking because I'm quite the introvert. And I'm more I sit and scribble. I'm a scribbler by nature. Yeah. I don't have your wonderful persona ability that you have. And so which I admire so much. So thank you for having me. This
is really gosh, delightful. No, absolutely. And you're doing just fine. You're fine. I think you are absolutely just darling. So, and I love, I love all the work that you do. And, you're always, and I love too that you're always doing different writer workshops and all of that. Like you're always trying to improve yourself, and improve your writing and all of that. And I think that's something that as adults, we don't commend in other adults enough. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, you're an adult, so you just know everything, right? Like that's it. And, I always said to my kids, like the minute you think you know everything is when you know nothing.
Right. And really, the minute you stop learning is the day you start dying. Absolutely. I mean, it is that expansion of ourselves that makes life worth living.
Right. And and sometimes too, even just learning like, for tarot, okay, I've been reading tarot for 30 years, but I'll still go to different classes. I'll still check out what everybody's doing, because sometimes it's that different perspective or that one little word that they use. And you're
Yep.
like, wait a minute, I never thought to use it that way. And boom, you learn something new. And it's not like they're going to obviously teach you from ground zero if you already know, but still those little bits sometimes mean so much more, right?
I agree.
Definitely. So, the name of your book is Iago's Penumbra.
Iago's Penumbra.
Iago's
Iago.
Penumbra.
Yes,
Okay.
Iago is the villain from Othello, Shakespeare's play Othello.
Yes.
And so it's Iago's Penumbra.
Iago's. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, a metaphysical novel.
Got it. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you know what I do, and it's really the words. Like, I am so bad at pronouncing names. So when I'm reading, like, even if I'm reading Shakespeare, or even if I will make up the name in my head a different way.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like, I hear it a different way. So then I go to say it, and then it's like, oh, that's not right. Okay. And I do it I do it with, like, I'm the name butcherer. So thank you for clarifying that. But
No,
I love.
actually, it is pronounced both ways. You're not
Okay.
wrong.
Okay.
Different
All
people
right.
pronounce it both ways. So no, that was not incorrect at
Yes,
all.
yes.
It's
Okay.
one of the
No, but
ways
it
it's
is. It's just
pronounced.
one
Yeah.
of those things I notice about myself, and then I talk, and I'm like, oh, right, that's not how you're. It's like we. I think as a writer, you just kind of make up your own language sometimes
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
I'm sure
Yeah.
any editor can attest to that, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're just like, what does this mean? What are we talking about here? I'm like, what do you mean? This is what it means, and it's like,
Yeah.
nah, you need to make that in English. So.
That's
So
right.
now, how did this idea for this book come about?
Okay, so a couple reasons. The first came that I have always believed that, and it's always been my personal life experience, that everything a person needs to know about life is written in Shakespeare's plays and sonnets. And I mean about life and the afterlife. I mean about magic. I mean about everything.
All the
And
things.
so I've always wanted, and although I've always seen, like, lots of people, they write they write books that are based on a Shakespearean play or a Shakespearean character. I've never seen someone take all the metaphysical aspects of Shakespeare and put it in a novel form, so that you're not redoing Shakespeare, but so that you're using the richness of his wisdom and his insight to show the things that, I mean, they've been there since the Renaissance and before. People have known this and seen this, all this ancient collective wisdom that we've had, but put it in a way that's a modern world, so that we can then take all those insights, those metaphysical and spiritual insights, but then experience them firsthand. So that was one reason. And then the second is, I'm a philosopher by nature. I love metaphysics. I love the study of philosophy and spirituality, obviously. And I wanted to see a fiction book, though, that took all of those spiritual truths that people are exploring and have questions about, like life after death. Why is there love? Why does it hurt so much sometimes? What does it mean to be human? How can humans treat each other so poorly? All these deep metaphysical questions, but explore them through the comfort of their own armchair at home as a reader, so that they can vicariously experience these truths without suffering the trauma that sometimes goes along with learning these larger truths.
Yeah.
So
Right.
those were the real initial things that caused me to write Iago's Penumbra.
Yeah, no, I love that too. And I like how you kind of, it kind of, I want to say simplifies it, but not in a way where it takes it away or anything. But a lot of people don't understand Shakespeare. They see it, they get overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
So I love that you kind of, like you said, you took those things and you put it into this novel. So it's like, oh, okay. And even as I was reading through, it reminded me of these different parts of different Shakespeare that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. So now it's like I want to go back and read it, and go back and be like,
Yes,
oh
yes.
yeah, that's what I wanted to. Oh yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I gotta go read that again. So that was something that was really interesting for me that I didn't expect. So I loved that. That was really
Oh,
a
that's
cool
wonderful.
thing.
Makes my heart so happy to hear that.
No, it was. And I love your characters. Kind of the main characters. We have Julie, Val, and Peter. And, they're all so different, but also the same,
Did you have a
kind of.
favorite?
I don't know. I think, and V, we can't forget V. I really think that I want to say Peter. I really liked Peter. I really did. And I really liked his evolution as a character, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Um and like Julie kind of annoyed me at times, I'm not going to lie. Like I just want to shake her,
Right.
so it definitely, and I think it's just to watch them go through these experiences that they went through, and how, even though it was kind of generally the same thing that happened, how what they took from it, the different things, because they are so different but yet the same, like it says different
Mhm.
experiences that they all took from it, and you just see how the character develops at that point. So I thought that was a really great, and I love that you just had a nice flow to that as well. It wasn't like kind of, sometimes it's like all over the place and you're like, oh crap, what's happened with this one again, what's happened, everything just kind of like flowed together. So that was really nice, and it really made it easy and fun to read.
So each one of those characters is based on a Shakespearean character. Every character in the novel is deliberately based on a famous Shakespearean character, and the archetype was built from that character,
Oh,
as
I
well
love
as
that.
all of the themes and the environments and the tropes
Mhm.
that were in that were all the Shakespearean themes that you find when you read both his plays, primarily for the plot, and then for his themes, the sonnets as well.
Right, right. Yeah, so I love how you wove that all in together. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
So, can you just tell us just real quick what those, main characters were, who they were based off of, or what part of Shakespearean literature?
So, okay. So there's one thing I need to say. I can't reveal too much until you've read the
Yes.
book. And the
Yes.
reason is the more you know Shakespeare, the more you'll know what's going to happen in the book if I tell you who they're patterned off of.
Right,
So for a
right.
person that doesn't know Shakespeare at all, they'll be
Yeah.
like, I'm not giving anything away. But for it, like, for example, if Emily Carding were to turn on this and watch it, and I were to say, for example, and I will say this, that the four lovers, there's a four lover trope that's throughout a lot of Shakespeare's comedies that the
Yeah.
four lovers are based on, which are V and Val and Peter and Julie. And
All
they
right.
are based on those, right? But if I go any further and say
Yes.
specific characters and you
Yeah.
know Shakespeare, then you're going to immediately know what happens to them in the book because it's
Right.
all
No, that was good. What you
Shakespeare.
said was
Yeah.
good. That's all we needed to know right there.
All right. But the
That's what I was
larger
looking
characters are
for.
there too. Yeah. And I could talk about Iago because that's very obvious. He
Yeah.
is the malignant villain, which is an actual trope. It's the villain who loves evil just for evil's sake.
Yeah.
And but one of the things that Shakespeare does when he uses, and I even named him after one of his greatest malignant villains, which is malignant malevolence, which is
Mhm.
Iago himself from Othello, because he just seems to just want to hurt. But
Right.
Shakespeare and the book itself, both Iago's Penumbra and Shakespeare, takes that so much further because even though Richard III, Iago, Shylock, all of these villains that we love to hate,
Mhm.
he also looks at not just like, well, what is a villain and what made a villain? And can a villain ever be changed? Where does the villain story end up? What happens after the villain story is done? And all of that's looked at just as Shakespeare alludes to and talks about in his plays through the character of Iago.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely, that definitely makes sense. Now that you're, explained it. And, the book is out now too. So if anybody, if you're like, what the hell are we talking about? You probably should just go get the book and read it, because that's the thing to do. And you can get it at any of your favorite bookstores. So definitely make sure to check
Oh,
that
and there's
out.
an amazing audiobook that just came out. It actually was
Woo, did
released a
it?
week later. It's read so beautifully by Melanie Hooks. She is
Oh, that's
phenomenal.
awesome.
She's one of those readers that does all the voices and the accents and really is
What?
mastered. Yeah, and in when the first time I heard her read, I heard her and I said, she sounds like V in my head. The whole time I wrote
Oh
the
my
book, and then
God.
she's the reader, and so she's phenomenal. And in fact, right now it's even discounted on Audible if you
Oh,
want to go get
there
it.
you
It
go,
happens
if
to be
you
on
wanna do
sale right
that.
now. It's
Yeah,
so
that's
amazing. Yeah.
amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. No, now I wanna hear it for sure. So let's talk about your writing in general. So, like, what
Okay.
is your general writing process? I know we're all very, we do all sorts of crazy things, but are you someone that, like, sits down at the computer and boom, 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 done? Do you have to come back to it here and there? Like, how does your flow work?
I write in the mornings and I I make things up. I create ideas in the evenings, and
Oh,
afternoons, like early afternoon. That's kind of that's when I run or I do yoga or I walk out in the woods. It's when I kind of recover in other venues, make things with my hands. So I am a plotter. Okay, so in the writing community, we always say there's pantsers and there's plotters.
yes.
Pantsers are people who write from the seat of their pants. They just sit down, they don't even really know what they're going to write, or if they do know, they just kind of know, and then they just let it flow. I'm not like that. Maybe it's because I write about things like Shakespeare and philosophy, which you can't really pants on, okay? I mean, because it's
Yeah,
already
true.
there, and
Right,
it's
right.
kind of or tarot, it's kind of already there, so you write beyond it. But
Yeah.
what I do is I very carefully and meticulously plan everything based on theme, because all my work primarily is driven by theme and
Mm-hmm.
philosophy. But
Okay.
then when I actually write the work, I let it's so steeped already in what I want. I make the characters so real that I let them make changes as I write.
Okay.
So I think you can attest to this. Iago's Penumbra is one of the most unexpected books as you're reading it that you'll probably ever read. It's not,
Yeah.
you think you know what's going to happen, and that's not what happens. And then you think you know what's going to happen,
Right.
and then
No,
that's not
so
what
many
happens, right?
times. So
Yeah,
many
right.
times.
Lots of twists, because Shakespeare's famous for that as well. But
Yes,
but
true.
the reason that it's like that, it wasn't me. It was almost like as I get into I'm a flow writer. So I plan everything, but then I write from the flow. I let spirit
Right.
speak through me. I mean, there's the automatic writing in the book. I mean, obviously I had to include that. And there's it's like all speaking to all. And I'm not saying it's like some grand thing like I'm channeling. It's not like
Right,
that.
right.
But I'm just saying that I get in a flow state
Mm-hmm.
and I just let it come. However, in the world of editing, I am a meticulous editor. I wrote Iago's Penumbra over 80 times from
Wow. Oh
start
my
to
goodness.
finish.
Good for
The first
you.
draft I took about 8 months, but then I
Mhm.
spent the next 7.5 years after that perfecting it.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Good for you, because that's the long haul right there. And I think,
Yeah.
and I think that's something too when people want to write that they don't realize that sometimes it is a long haul thing. It isn't going to happen right away, and it's better to take your time with it and not rush it so you can put out exactly what you want and what you envisioned instead of just slamming out stuff that can be half-assed. I mean, some people are great at it. Some people can boom, 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 write it, send it out, done, right? But I don't know. I can't particularly do that. Like, I'll have the general like framework that'll come real fast, but then it's like all the details just kind of have to trickle in how they're coming and how it all is going to flow. So I definitely, can see what you're saying about that, and then also making sure that it's, exactly how you want it and everything going
And
together
I
and
also think a really important part is beta readers, like
mhm.
having people that aren't your best friends and that don't love you,
Yeah,
but who want to see the work be what it's capable of being. Take
right.
that book, read it, and just give you their honest feedback as a reader.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
different than the professional editor. That's just a person who says, when I read this, this was my experience. And I was very, very lucky
Mhm.
because over the years when I was deeply, deeply involved in the editing phase, I had people that I could trust from different backgrounds of life, different belief systems, that I
Mhm.
could say, tell me what you relate to, what you don't relate to. Tell me what speaks to you, what doesn't speak to you. Tell me where it gums up and where it doesn't. And I was
Right.
able to, I mean, the first version of Iago's Penumbra versus the version that was published, I mean, yeah, you can tell they're the same book, but they seem they're so different. It's laughable.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, in that amount of time, like, you grow and change,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
right? So it's like
Yes.
then that book almost kind of grows with you and changes with you. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, this is how I want it to be. Like, it wasn't
Mhm.
meant to be for yourself 5 years ago. It was meant to be for
Exactly.
yourself now. So
That's a
I
really
think
good
that's,
point.
always a really an interesting thing. I think it's a good way to look at it. Especially for people, because we're kind of in a society of hurry, 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 get it done,
Yeah.
quick, quick, quick,
Isn't
and
that the
sometimes
truth?
it's not how things are, and it's really not realistic, even though it looks like it on social media, but it's really not.
Not at all.
Not at all. So, like, when you're writing and you're in the middle of your planning stages, and what do you usually do if you have another idea that just, like, boom, like lightning bolt, another idea comes in? Like, how do you handle that?
That's a great question. So I have a file that is my idea file, and I all I do is write down that idea, but I
Mhm.
don't let it take me off of what I'm currently working on. And then what I do is I'm always working on multiple projects. Like right
Yeah.
now, I have 3 other books I'm writing at the same time.
Yes.
So, and while I was working on Iago's Penumbra, I had 2 other novels. And then while I was doing right, and then I just turned in one project to my publisher that's coming out next year, a new project. I have 2 other books I was working on while I was working on that. And what I do is I use those. So writer's block. So I don't get writer's block, but the only reason I don't is because I think writer's block comes from trying to work too much on one project without a break.
Yeah,
So
that
I
makes
write
sense.
a project until I need a break, and then I don't quit though. I switch to one of the other projects
Yes.
and I
Oh
work
my
on
God.
that. And I make sure that they're not all the same kind of project. Like I don't work on 3 novels all at the same time. I
Right.
work on a cartomancy deck and a novel and a how-to book or an article for a magazine that I'm working on, like for
Mhm.
Cartomancer or something. And so,
Mhm.
but by switching back and forth, I'm able to accomplish more, but I'm less exhausted from the process.
Right, right. And yeah, I'm so glad that you said that because I do the same thing. And I've always wondered, do other people do it like this or whatever? So I'm really glad that you said that. I'm really, because I do the same thing because I think if, my book's in editing stages right now. And I think, I was writing, but I think if I just so hyper focused on that and that was it, I mean, I guess some people have to do it that way. Like that's just how their brain works. But for me,
Well, and there are deadlines.
yeah, there are deadlines, obviously,
Yeah.
but I was, well, and you know what? And I don't know how it happened, but my book and my cat deck are both due at the same time. I'm like, oh, that was really great, Jen. Good looking
Oh
out there.
no.
I mean, and it's all working out. It'll be fine because we always make it work.
Uh-huh.
But it is like that. Doing that switching around a little bit definitely does help. I feel like just creatively, it definitely is very, very helpful. Very
And something
helpful.
else I do is when I have an idea, I pull a tarot card
Oh
and I
yeah.
put it with the idea so that I know I can look at the energy of the card and know where I was when I had that idea. And because
Yeah.
sometimes you look at an idea and go, why did I like that?
Oh
But the
gosh,
tarot
so many
card, because I
times.
know so much about it, it will remind me why that idea
Yeah.
mattered and what I was looking for. So that's
Yes.
another trick I have that really works.
No, it's always, yeah, I think for us that do any sort of mancy of any sort, that's always the go-to. You always got to pull at least one card. So it's like,
Yeah,
like you're okay.
yeah,
So I love that
that's
though.
right.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So do you have any like really weird, quirky writing habits you'd like to share with us?
Hmm. Oh, yes,
Oh
I
gosh.
do.
All right, let me hear
Um,
it.
so other than which, now for us, for you and I, this isn't quirky, but this
Yeah.
is not the really quirky one. This is the less quirky one. Then I'll get to the really quirky one.
Okay.
So,
Oh, good. We get
but
to.
when I go out and I talk to my general writing friends who aren't necessarily into more spiritual pursuits,
Mhm.
when I use tarot and cartomancy and crystal, I use everything in my writing, and they
Mhm.
consider that to be like the quirkiest thing they ever heard. Like I
That's
just did a
funny.
presentation recently at a writers conference, and they asked me to do not one but 2 sessions because they thought this is so weird. And it was
Oh,
really,
I
I
love
mean, it was
it.
totally booked, and everyone was so excited about the idea of how to use tarot to write a novel, which for us is like, oh my god, that's been out forever. We've been
Right,
doing
right,
that. There's so
right.
many books, but they consider that really quirky. But the non here's some quirky things that I do that aren't from cartomancy. One thing I do is to inspire myself, because let's say there's ever a moment, because my goal is to write every morning. So if
Mhm.
there's ever a time that I'm not inspired, I feel nothing. And there are
Mhm.
those days
Oh,
when I
yeah.
look at the blank paper and it's going to stay blank. I take out my favorite author, and there's lots, but I take
Mhm.
out someone that I love. I pick my favorite passage. And then what I do is I rewrite that passage about a different topic. And if it's my book, if I'm working on my novel or something or a
Mhm.
book, I rewrite that passage about as though it were going to be in my book. But I use
Oh,
all the same language and it's sentence structure and everything. And it spurs me to be able to leap across what I love most about someone else's writing and
right.
rediscover why I love writing for myself. So
Yeah.
that's one kind of quirky thing. I've been doing
Oh,
it
I love
forever.
that.
Yeah,
That's like
forever.
really handy, I think.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I really like to do, that it's quirky, is I like to meditate or get into a deep meditative state or even like just take a nap, but
Mhm.
then write down whatever I dream and somehow fit it into my book. Now,
Oh, that's
I may not
cool.
use it in the final draft, but
Right.
usually, and sometimes I do, but even if I don't use it in that draft, there's always something from the dream or the meditative state that it takes it to another level that most books don't reach.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a great idea for sure. And I have to share though. The other day, I had this dream, and it was so effed up. It was like crazy. It was like this alien, like apocalyptic situation, and it was so detailed, and it's so messed up. And it was legit like a whole movie. I had an appointment I had to get to early, so I got in my car and I put the voice recorder on. And I recorded it because I'm like, this is a story. This is a really scary, effed up story
Yeah.
that people are going to think I'm insane. But I'm like, I need to write this, and it was just so detailed. Like there was no way I couldn't not like somehow like document this. So
Yep.
like the
Yep.
whole dream thing, I believe that I'm a big dream person. I get a lot of messages and stuff through dreams. So I'm all about that. And I think that's even great advice for new writers is like start a dream journal
Yep.
and
Oh, some of
use
the
that for
best ideas in the world
inspiration.
come from dreams. But you have to be
Oh,
careful. So in fiction, if you're writing a novel, though, you don't want to have a lot of dreams because
mhm,
readers actually hate that.
mhm.
They don't
Right,
mind
right,
if there's one or two dreams in the course of the novel, but you need to tie those dream images and the dream ideas into the plot or the story in some way and not just have a
right.
bunch of dreams because
Oh
we
yeah,
find it just like we don't like people telling us about their dreams ad nauseum. It's very difficult. It's even
yeah.
more difficult to read a novel that has a lot of dreams.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. But
They're
even using
inspiration.
the dream for the story, like creating a
Yeah.
story out of the dream,
Off of
like
the
that,
dream. Well, I mean, that's what Twilight was. You
yeah,
know that, right? She had
yeah,
a dream.
that's true.
And the entire series came out of a dream about a
Yeah,
sparkling vampire. Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. And she made bank on that. So,
Oh,
all
yes, she did. Yeah.
right. She definitely did. So,
Yeah.
what was kind of one of your earliest pieces of writing that you put out there for the public, and like how do you feel about it now?
Okay. This is a really good question because you've made me remember something that I actually forgot about until you asked me that question.
I love it.
So when I was in college, I was a triple major, but one of my degrees was in theater arts, obviously Shakespeare, theater
Mhm.
arts. And I wrote a one-act play as part of an assignment. And then they chose some of the one-act plays that we wrote to be put on in a small theater. And so my peers acted out my one-act play that I wrote. And the
Oh
one
wow,
act play, I know, isn't that,
that's
you
so
know, and
cool.
first thing I ever had for the public, though, that was it. And it was actually, it's so funny to remember because it was about a character who was a grandmother named Rose. And Rose was the supreme optimist, this delightful, wonderful character whom everyone that we met them loved. She was an idealist. She was trying to make the world a better place. But the darker side of Rose, and not Rose as in me, like Rose
Mhm.
Guildenstern. Actually, I'd never even made that connection until I just said that
I
right
was
then.
just gonna
But
say that name
it
just
wasn't me at all.
like
It wasn't
following you
me.
around,
I know that's so funny. Yes, I just saw that.
Yeah.
But Rose, um, she was cruel unintentionally to those that she loved because of her dedication to her ideals and a better world and being optimistic. People couldn't be themselves or be honest or be frail or honest with her about what was going on in their lives really and what they were struggling with. And so it was what this one act play that had this two levels. It was everything Rose was seeing, and then
Right.
the audience would see what everyone was doing around her and she couldn't see it. And the name of the glasses was Rose Colored Glasses. That was the name of the
Ah,
play, Rose
I
Colored
like
Glasses,
that.
because
Very
she had these
good.
glasses, and when it was her vision, everything was
Then
happy.
she
She
put them.
wearing the glasses, and
Oh,
then
that's
one of
clever.
the characters would take the glasses off her face, and
Uh-huh.
the audience would see what was really going on that she wasn't
Oh,
seeing.
wow. Oh, see,
So that's
that's
the first thing I
even
ever wrote.
clever. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. So, like, how do you feel about it now when you look back on it at your college self that created this?
I see a lot of themes that have always troubled me about
Mhm.
the world and the society that we live in, and
Yeah.
about people being willing in their dedication to what they've decided is so and what must be so and what the world that they're trying to make, they trample the reality of those around them or what others are going through, because they can't, if a world can't encompass other views and their own as well as their own, then they choose their own first and they don't really care what happens to others. And I think I
Right.
see that in everything I've ever written. It's
Yeah.
there somewhere. It is definitely Iago's Penumbra.
Right,
And
right,
it, yeah, it's the cruelty of believing that there's only one way and that my one way is the way for everyone.
right. My way or the highway, right?
Yeah,
And I,
yeah,
you know, I love that though, and I love that you remember that and you knew what it was, and just how that thread kind of goes through
yeah,
all of the work
it
that you
does.
do as well. Like, and I think that's
Yeah,
really interesting, and it's like your life message, to put out there, right?
definitely one of them. Yes.
Yeah, right. No,
Yeah,
I love that, and I just love it. And that's why I always like ask the questions like about like where did you start, how did like those beginning things, because I always like to see like that evolution and how it all does tie together. Because sometimes
yeah,
we're so busy and we don't even think back on them, bring that all together, and
absolutely. Yeah,
I think it's important to do that sometimes. You don't want to get stuck there, obviously, but I think it's important.
yeah.
But so why don't you go ahead? Like we're a little bit over a half hour already, believe it or not.
It's okay. You're very good at getting me to talk.
So why don't you go ahead and describe the book in one sentence? This is your challenge.
Okay. This is like my elevator pitch, they call it in
Yes, yes,
writing
yes,
circles.
yes.
When a clairvoyant falls in love with a ghost, our world will never be the same.
Yes, I love that. So, anyone listening, if that doesn't make you want to know what's going on in this book, I don't know what will. So, definitely, you want to check this out. So, can you tell us anything about some of these new things you have going on? Is anything allowed to give us a little hint?
Oh, yes. Actually, I have a new cartomancy deck. It's already with a publisher, Schiffer Redfeather, and it's called Frame This Oracle.
Ooh,
It's like nothing that's ever been done before.
oh
And basically, when I write things, I write things because there isn't anything like it anywhere else.
wow. Mm-hmm.
So I see a hole in the market. I see something people are looking for, something that doesn't exist, and that's when I create it. And so
That's
I
awesome.
actually never intended after my last tarot deck, because I have two tarot decks and a tarot book out under Juno Lucina, which is my other writing area.
Yes.
And but I thought I was only going to write fiction, and then it was actually during COVID, and I saw the pain that everyone was going through
Mm-hmm.
in the spiritual community as well as obviously not in the spiritual community. And
Right.
I saw a need for something other than any of the tarot oracle decks that currently exist. And so I created Frame This Oracle with Dan Goodfellow, who's an incredible artist in the UK. We did the whole
Yeah.
thing back and forth long distance, but they're beautiful. And what they are is it's frames that change our perspective on a reading, on our environment, on a person, on a tarot card, on a picture of someone, on a
Mm-hmm.
memory, on a found object. It can be, but you use these frames and each one is a different aspect of existence.
Ooh,
But
I
a
love it.
philosophical tool that when you use
Yeah.
the guidebook, you can actually philosophically change your way of looking at whatever you're looking at to get to look at it from a new perspective.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
So
And
that's
people
that tool.
need that. People need that. Just even what we were talking about, my way or the highway, right? And then this is
Yeah.
going to just completely take you out of that. Oh, I can't wait to see it. That's exciting.
Thank you. And then I have another novel coming out that
Mhm.
I'm in the middle of working on,
Okay.
which is a dystopian sci-fi novel, futuristic novel that's about a world in the future in which the United States has split up into two countries.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, and each has developed a very different sort of AI that they basically live their entire lives by.
Wow. Ooh, all right. I'm interested. You know me and my sci-fi, so
Right.
I'm a fan for sure.
Yeah.
So, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you if they'd like to find out more about your work?
Okay. So on Instagram, I'm at Rose period and period Juno. or on Facebook, it's just at Rose and Juno. You can also use my website, which I have both. It's both roseguildenstern.com and roseandjuno.com. I have both for the same website.
Oh, good.
Those are the best places to find me. And then from there, you can email me, you can write messages. I'm very responsive. And I'm also on YouTube and stuff like that. But that's a side thing. This is really, those are the best places: Instagram, Facebook, or my website.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
So everyone, if you I'm going to also link everything down in the post when I repost everything too. And when you do get Rose's book, make sure that you review it. It's very, very important for our authors. It's important for our publishers. It seems like such a silly thing, and it literally takes 5 minutes, but it is so important to us, and it really makes a difference, and it really helps out. So make sure you do that. Tag, take a picture with it. Everybody, we all love seeing that. So definitely do all those things. Support your authors. Support your smaller, bookstores as well. That's always very important, because that's putting somebody's kid in softball or their dance classes. So you definitely want to support the small businesses and the small bookstores as well. Well, thank you so very much. This was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. And we'll have to have you on again when you get that Oracle deck out, or your book even, whichever, both. I don't care. We'll get you back on regardless.
Okay.
Well,
sounds wonderful.
Yes. Thank you everyone for watching. And then that's it. I hope you have a great day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.